Thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. So just quick update on where we are in the process. SBAC gave their recommendations to me. I think most of you are aware of what those were, so it's now in my court to figure out what I do with that. And I'm starting from exactly where the recommendations they gave me. And then what I decided was I wanted to do 2 listening sessions, one on the west side, which I did last week, and then and it was with the communities that were most impacted or had most urgency in terms of what I needed to address in my recommendations. So the Ainsworth Spanish immersion moved to East Sylvan part of the proposal. I went and listened last week, and then the urgency around go quicker with Ockley was part 2 that I really wanted to hear from this community, so that I can consider that when I put together my recommendation. I'm also going through a process of listening to each one of our board members one-on-one, so I get a sense they have been out and participating in all these listening sessions as well as doing other listening sessions, so I really want to hear how their heads have moved through this process. Then I will put together some modified recommendations, taking off from what SBAC gave me. I will modify. What I have been saying is a huge piece of my consideration is our ability to implement, and and I'll be balancing just like urgency up against ability to deliver and do a good job. So I am so aware of the impact of the K-8 conversion and what kind of impact that had on the community that people still talk about today, and our opportunity to do this and do it well. So that's one of the big things I'm weighing, and it's part of what I'm listening to tonight. So what I will do, I will then present a recommendation to the community, or to SBAC publicly. I'll then go do 2 more listening sessions, refine my recommendation, and then give it to the board, and then it's in the board's court, okay? And I'll tell you this again at the end of tonight, but I'm really listening closely for what you have to tell me. The other thing is we have members of an implementation team that I'm going to ask you guys to stand. Dick, Tony, Chris, Antonio. Harriet just walked in. I just saw her wherever she went. There she is. Who have been listening as SBAC's been doing their work and then giving me feedback on what are the program considerations, staffing considerations, budget considerations, facility considerations, like what are the things we've got to be able to put in motion to make sure that these things actually happen, readiness for it to happen. So they're listening with me tonight in order to provide me with feedback on all of those issues. So with that, handing off to you guys.
The Jefferson Cluster Middle School Vision Group, I just want to say that we are just full-time working parents that got together to work with our shared community, many of you who are in this room today. In September 2013, the amazing Miss Talitha Benjamin testified to the PPS Board of Directors, what you have created is something that will bring an
atmosphere that will bring a coalition, like something you have never seen before. So just get ready for it.
We continue the legacy of the Raleighs, Talitha Benjamin, Lakeitha Elliott, and the memory of Neely Wells, and many more that came before us and will come after us to continue to advocate and demand a just and equitable education for all of our students. It has started. The coalition is here today. We are not going anywhere. Thank you, Talitha, for your courage, wisdom, and over 50 years of advocacy for all students. We want to give a brief timeline of what brought us to where we are today. In June of 2011, the PPS Board of Directors adopted the Racial Educational Equity Policy. In February of 2013, the PPS Board of Directors, under Resolution 4718, voted to close Ockley Green Arts and Technology, implement SBAC, and create a split campus Chief Joseph Ockley Green. In October of 2015, PPS presents scenario 1 and 2 at the SBAC meeting with Ockley Green as a middle school. And that is when our visioning group started. Rolling forward to January 28th of 2016, SBAC's recommendation, if it is possible for PPS to deliver a robust middle school program at Ockley Green this fall, SBAC believes it should do so. The Jefferson Cluster Middle School vision is all of us in this room, and many more that are not here today. To date, DBROC community meetings have consisted of 23 hours and 21 minutes of listening sessions, of which we have all participated in. As a community, we came together to present Scenario 12 for implementation in 2016. Our vision used existing 5th through 7th grade students in Beach, Woodlawn, and Chief Joseph Ockley Green. Using 5th through 7th grade students, we would have an anticipated enrollment of 477 students in fall. In 2017, we would have 555 students, and by 2018, we could have up to 600 students based on current enrollment numbers. Ockley Green Middle School in 2016 solves problems. It relieves acute overcrowding at Beach that is only expected to get worse. It maintains the Jefferson-Roosevelt dual enrollment boundary. It provides critical middle school core and elective programming to more students. All current 5th through 7th grade students at Beach, Chief Joseph, and Woodlawn would attend Ockley Green as a middle school. DBRAC will continue to work on right-sizing boundaries for K-5s in the future. This is just a quick chart to show the different and elective comparisons between Beaumont, a standalone 6-8 middle school, and Jefferson cluster schools. The other thing we've talked about as a community and has been published in the paper is that our K-8s consistently have a reduced schedule for our middle grades. Typically, it's about 3 weeks of direct instruction lost over the middle grades entering into high school from what the standalone middle schools have. Middle school teacher staffing. What we've been told by the district consistently is that enrollment equals dollars equals programming. So we looked at 2 middle schools that are standalone that are similarly sized to what we would project Ockley Green would be. Lane with 471 students and Da Vinci. And we see that it aligns perfectly with 6 sections of 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade for 18 core teachers, plus a minimum of an additional 6 for 24, and additional support staff that we would need to make the transition equitable and successful. And that aligns again when we look at Lane and Da Vinci and what their staffing are. We need our teachers to follow our students. We need to partner with PPS on electives and supports. What we need to hear from is our students. This is their vision. And this is just a list of the specials or electives that staff that we currently have. Additional opportunities. Students equals dollars equals programming. Again, the district has been very clear with us that the challenges we have in our under-enrolled middle grades of our K-8s is that we don't have enough students to get the programming. And by consolidating again into middle schools, such as Beaumont, Da Vinci, Hosford, we would have enough students in order to get the programming. This would increase world language access for high school credit, compacted math access algebra for high school credit, tiered intervention support classes for grade level language arts, tiered intervention support classes for grade level math, expanded STEM, dance, art, music, and other electives and specials. Our ask, to uncouple the DBRAC recommendations to reconfigure Ockley Green as a middle school in 2016 from the general East and West Side recommendations. This aligns with the Racial Educational Equity Policy Resolution 4459. It closes the loop with Resolution 4719 that closed Ockley Green Arts and Technology and merged with Chief Joseph. By reconfiguring Ockley Green, PPS can act more aggressively at narrowing the longstanding opportunity gap in the Jefferson cluster. Our coalition has arrived. We are prepared to partner with PPS on these changes today.
One more thing. Well, we are a contingent of parents who are deeply concerned about the education for all kids in the Jefferson cluster. Please remember that most of us work full-time and also volunteer at our schools. This advocacy group was formed in October 2015 when DBRAC provided the idea of opening Ockley Green as a middle school in 2016-17 and Harriet Tubman in 2017-18. In the limited time that we have had available, we have involved as many stakeholders in the Jefferson cluster as possible. You must stand with us and want the best for our kids, want them to succeed, and want them to succeed as much as we do. This is a unique opportunity for PPS to demonstrate the power of true partnership between a holistic group of advocates without money or resources or inside knowledge, and PPS without on-the-ground perspective, to provide our kids the best possible outcomes and educational experience. We need you, and you need us. We need a great principal that will unify our students, teacher, and parent and caregiver community. We can start this work immediately. An extra planning year will not get us any further next year than we are now. If anything, we will lose critical momentum of very involved caregivers and community members. Please do not ask us to wait for what we desperately need for our children. We need you to believe that this can happen this year and that inaction is pure failure. We want clear and specific reasons why we should wait another year. We want clear and specific actionable planning around what you will do to mitigate business as usual for our kids in the interim. You knew this day was coming when you passed Continuing Resolution 4718 3 years ago. Please do this now. So I think we have some students that want to testify. Do you want to go first? Okay, go first.
Hello, my name is Jasper. Hello, my name is Jasper. I'm in 7th grade, and I think if our middle school became if our school became a middle school, it would be a better environment for everyone to get ready for high school, because there would be a lot more kids, and if we have a lot more kids, our school would have more fundings to have more teachers and more electives, and it would be better. And what else? I think that's all I have to say.
Woo. I'm a 7th grader from Beach, and truthfully, our school is super overcrowded, and almost every middle schooler knows it. We don't have all that many electives, and I mean, we don't have a band. We wish we had a band. We didn't have a theater group or anything. And I mean, we middle schoolers, we're pretty flexible. Truthfully, a lot of us think that going to Ockley Green would be a great opportunity to meet new students and have new experiences that'll get us ready for high school.
Hi, my name is Sophia Strudwick. I am in 3rd grade at Chief Joseph. I want Ockley Green to be a middle school, and I want to go there. My sister goes to Da Vinci, and I want Ockley Green to have the same kinds of programs. I can walk to Ockley Green, and I want to walk to school and not take the bus. I do not want to go to King or Trillia or Tolman. I should get to stay with my school friends and teachers. If Miss Smith lets me stay at Chief Joseph for 4th and 5th grade, I hope she will let me also go to Ockley Green and not have to ride the bus to Tolman.
I am in 6th grade here at Ockley Green. This is hard to say. I love dancing, and I had a lot of friends that I really miss that decided to go to Da Vinci because they have a lot of art programs and dance programs there. And I really wish that we had a lot of programs here that they have at Da Vinci, because I love dancing, and I take ballet at, I forgot what the place was. And I wish we had, let's see, I wish we had dance here after school. Thanks, Brian. Like after school, I wish that we had dance, I know we have a dance program here, but that's probably mostly hip hop, and I live hip hop, but I wish we also had like ballet, tap, and jazz, because I love dancing a lot. And one thing that I thought would be cool that I really wish we had here, but they're probably not going to put in, is gymnastics. Because I'm going to take gymnastics in the summer, but that's like really far away, so I wish we had it here, and that'd just be really fun.
My name's Amelia, and I go to beach school. I'm in 3rd grade. Our classroom is really small, and during reading time, we have middle schoolers that are talking outside of our classroom. Our classroom's really crowded, and our lunch could be at 10:30. The other 3rd grade classes are really much bigger classrooms than us. Our classroom is really crowded and we barely have any room to move.
So now what we want to do is have everyone here participate in sharing some of your views. So we're going to ask you to self-organize into small discussion groups.
Good evening, my name is Larissa Beck. I'm a 7th and 8th grade language arts and social studies teacher at Beach K-8. Love Beach. So here's the thing, I love my school. I love it with a deep passion. I love my students, I love my colleagues, and if I could in a magical world stay there forever, I would. I recognize that a change needs to happen, but I also recognize that my students, my 7th grade students, my 6th grade students, they are worth taking the time to do this right. They're worth it. So I have a different opinion. I think if it's worth doing, my kids are worth doing it right for. If your kid's in 2nd grade, don't worry. Even if it's a rotten year next year where we're like, holy mackerel, what are we doing? It will be fine for your kid. But it will not be fine for the kids that I see every day. And I am here advocating for those kids. And I think that we need to take a moment and we need to think about that. So that's my perspective. I don't know how long you guys have been in the district. We haven't hired a principal yet. So if there was a strong principal right here and Superintendent Smith was like, yes, this person's here, they are ready, it is go time, Beck, I would be like, okay, man, I'm gonna get on it. There is no principal for us to rally around. There is no one for us to look to for leadership as teachers for next year. I want Ockley Green Middle School to be the very best middle school for our students. And to have that happen, we need to have time to plan traditions. All these amazing elective classes, they don't just happen. We need to make them happen. And I know that we can, we just need a little bit more time. And I believe that we can make this work. I know we can make it work, but I think our students are worth taking the time, our teachers are worth taking the time to come together to plan in community so that no one feels like a bomb was dropped on them. So every single person, when we start day one Ockley Green Middle School, it's a celebration and we know who we are and we know why we're here and we are ready to have the very best school that we can have. And I think that is something that could happen with thoughtful time taken. And if you want to know really why, that's it, man. There is no principal. There is no person for us to look to. And it's not going to happen really fast. We wanted a principal last year, and someone's like, well, what if you had an interim? For a brand new middle school? That is not solid ground for us to build our school on. That is not solid ground for teachers, and then we can't make solid ground for your kids. And we want to make it the best that we can. It's not an accident that we are talking about the cluster with most students of color in this district. And I think that I will own this, I'm a white woman, I'm not trying to speak for any person of color. I'll tell you what I've experienced. I have seen this district try to make changes that have had negative impacts on students and families of color many times, and I think that if we force this through for next year, that would just be another one of those changes. And I cannot sit by and watch that happen. I would not sit by for my students and watch that happen. So that's why I'm here speaking my truth. I entreat you to value our students, our families, our parents, and our teachers enough to take the time to do it once and do it right.
I'm a parent of a first grader at Beach. And one of the positive things that we talked about in our group is how quickly parents and community members have come together with this, making a really in-depth plan, and just looking through the PowerPoint slides and this packet, you guys worked your tushies off. So I just want to give a round of applause to everybody who worked so hard to put all this together so fast. One of the things we talked about is we've noticed, it seems like there's been support from all areas, and I guess the only question that I had was, what is the teacher support? And I think there's different perspectives from that. So I've seen a lot of Beach teachers here, which is great, and hearing Larissa's perspective. So I guess that would be our only concern, is how the teachers feel about starting that out next year.
We spent most of our time just trying to figure out, which schools were going to be coming and which grades and whatnot. But two of us have fourth graders here, and so we really want them to be able to stay as fifth graders to keep some consistency for them, and recognizing that Chief Joseph there's no way that the fifth graders could go back there as far as space. So we were just wondering, this proposal, if that was a consideration, that the fifth graders were going to be able to stay here and keep the fourth graders at Chief Joseph, and that was mainly what we talked about.
I have a sixth grader at Beach. I think most of the parents here are from Beach. So if the change goes forward to move to Ockley, we would like a program equitable to any other school, any other middle school in PPS, and compacted math should be a given in that program. We agree that the more electives would be a big benefit to the kids transferring over. And we have the concern that PPS can physically accomplish this transition in this short amount of time. We need a solid plan to address the need for the move. And a principal in place as soon as possible would be a key part of that move. One small item would be preparation in advance. Little things like having all the teachers in place and the teachers having time to set up a classroom are things that we've seen in the past that can really get the school year off to a bad start. So all that planning needs to be done in advance.
I have two kids, one at Chief Joe and one in the Madison cluster at Roseway Heights. And we've worked hard. You down there have worked so hard. The time is now. We can't make our kids in K-8s wait and wait and wait. You've seen it. They are losing 10 days of instructional time a year. They are not ready for high school. They're not ready to matriculate through classes. They need a cohort that's bigger than the kids they've been with since kindergarten. They need real and meaningful time to develop socially, to have a middle school dance with 100 kids, not the 30 they've known since kindergarten. We need to grow. We need to service our children. The time is now. We cannot wait.
I have two kids at Beach, one in 4th grade and one in 2nd grade. I'm also a teacher at Lincoln High School. I would like the transition to be as soon as possible. First of all, because it will provide more elective for middle school students. I would like the students in this cluster to have the same opportunities that the students in the cluster that I teach have in the West Side. I think that the transition should be a thoughtful transition, and I agree with the teacher over here that we should have a principal in place and something that is well planned. But I think that as the other parents here think that we should not wait and we should provide the current students in 6th and 7th grade the opportunities that most of the students in our district on the other side of the river have.
For me personally, I'm not speaking for the group on this one. I like sooner than later because my daughter is going to be a 7th grader next year, and I would love to see her have more electives. And also, before I speak for my group, me personally, I hope that the district is hearing not only from the minority of people who think one way, but they're seeing the broad spectrum and hearing from the swath of people. I usually don't attend these things, but I thought it was important to come out and hear what was going on in the community. So I'm usually never a voice, and that's my bad. So I just hope it's not a small group of people who think one way that get the big vote. So the pluses for us, of course, are electives, sports, band, music. We had a dancer that spoke on our behalf. But some of the things that we're really concerned about is just the implementation process. You know, building our communities, making sure the kids from all the districts, especially the ones where our kids, there's a number of our kids are in Spanish immersion who've been in little groups together, and we get to this broader, bigger community, having that, you know, somebody to guide that way so that they do feel like a community and they're not a disjointed bunch of kids from different communities. Transportation was on our list, and the enrollment transfer being a thoughtful process. And then I made a note that said something that I can't read because I was writing really fast. And for me personally, I was just thinking about the security of having a large volume of students at a greater age. Right now it's a K through 8, and they have to be respectful because there's younger students in their school, and it's really pounded into them. My daughter comes home and tells us, oh, you know, so-and-so said something in front of these little kids, and they got called out for it. And I don't know if that's going to be something that is going to be as monitored as closely in a middle school, and so my daughter's kind of naive. But so those were, I think, did I capture what we were talking about? Okay, so I think for our small group, we were thinking, let's go for it. I think that there's been a lot of planning. I think 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that, but I think that there's been a lot of planning and a lot of thoughtful approaches to different things. That, you know, the plan has changed a number of times, and I think this is a much more conservative approach than what we've had in the past. So, he's right.
My name is Chris Reiser, and I'm a middle school teacher at Woodlawn School. First of all, before I even get into comments, what does it say that we only had one Spanish language interpreter here tonight for all of the Spanish-speaking people that we're supposed to be listening to? Really, I want to hit home two things that I heard from the group that I sat with, which is Woodlawn families as well as Woodlawn teachers. And that is urgency. I've heard some other folks here mention that, and I want to reiterate that. The other thing is I want to talk about the opportunity gap. First of all, we in our group agree that the change needs to happen sooner rather than later. We need to move forward and get this thing going because our kids now, 2,300 students, have gone through Woodlawn, the Jeff Cluster, and have been absolutely, as the gentleman from Lincoln said, they're not getting what the Lincoln kids are getting. That is an opportunity gap for those 2,300 kids. So we started them out behind in the schools. They went into high school unprepared, and they were less likely to attend college. And if they did, that was a slog because they were not prepared for what was there for them. That affects our economy. That affects our community. Those are very real impacts that now, 10 years later, are going to be coming home to roost. Those kids are now adults, and how much are they able to contribute economically, socially, right? Because they did not get the same things that other kids in Portland Public Schools got. Furthermore, I heard strong mistrust, and I hear strong mistrust of administration in terms of what more are we going to get if we get another year? What is really going to be different if we have more time? We've been looking at this, we've been breaking it down, we just need to move forward. Okay, so yeah, and then specifically to go back to the opportunity gap, you know, at Woodlawn, first of all, we have a huge attrition rate between 5th and 6th grade. And I still have to do everything that I can to teach those kids. Our 7th grade class is actually violating federal law because we are more than 50% special needs students in a general education setting. And that's because in 5th grade, those kids that could get out, those parents that sought after those opportunities, took them, and they bailed. And we're dealing with the kids who have been left behind. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. So the students that I've taught now, this is my 3rd year at Woodlawn. I've been working with the kids that started in 6th grade, went to 7th grade. Now I'm teaching them 8th grade language arts and social studies, and I am frightened. I am scared because they don't have math. They didn't get compacted math. We don't have compacted math at Woodlawn. So my kids don't get that credit that many of your kids are getting. They don't have Spanish this year. My kids are not getting a Spanish language credit. They had Spanish last year, part-time. And now they have no Spanish, and we have 14 kids in the Mandarin program. That is an atrocity, ladies and gentlemen. And so for those reasons, I will say again, we need to make a change. We need to make it now. And as far as the leadership goes, we can find a leader. Okay? We can find a leader. And I know that leadership makes a difference. I've seen it in the short time that I've been at Woodlawn. But by the same token, there's a lot that teachers can do when we're fired up and when we're ready to go and when we have so much opportunity and we have the vision that we have for this middle school and for these middle school kids. So let's go, let's do it now, and let's get our kids the opportunities that they need.
I'm a King parent, and I have a 5th grader, so like some of you others, I have a lot of interest in this. I was in a group that had Beach represented heavily. We had Woodlawn and King. So our vision, our answer to the vision question was we want advanced math, art, music, many things that have already been said, and a robust programming. And I echo the students, just like some of the other option middle schools like Da Vinci. My son's a jazz piano player, which he's taken advantage of the program at King, and I'd love to see him continue that if he was to move. We want to maintain a sense of community that the K-8s have among students and teachers, and that the teachers can come with the existing middle school students. Our concerns are that we have all the resources in place to start this, that there are work-back schedules and timelines set up so that things are on track before we start. That the kids need, especially for King and Woodlawn, I know King isn't actually part of this. This is more probably for Woodlawn in this case, but I don't know why King's not involved. I'll have to figure that out. They have similar needs to Woodlawn, so thank you to the teacher who spoke about Woodlawn, echo that for King. But how are students who have higher needs going to have those needs met when they're immersed into an environment where the gap, the achievement gap, is very obvious. So the services and again the leader who can ensure that those students aren't further left behind in this new, bigger environment. And the long-term hopes are it's a school that parents in this cluster want to send their kids to. And having been involved in these conversations from the last round, I've seen that momentum build over the years. So I think that is something that you can count on.
I have a first grader and a third grader at Chief Joseph, and our group was primarily composed of CJOG folks and a lot of younger students. We have a unique situation in that we are not a K through 8 on a single campus. Right now we are a K through 3 in one school and a 4 through 8 on another campus. And I can tell you that the third graders want to stay in an elementary school. They want to stay with little kids and very much look forward to their junior high time at a later date. They don't know what's happening. My daughter asks me constantly, where am I going to school next year? We've had a lot of changes over the last few years. So what we're seeking and our concerns are a lot of what all of you are concerned about. We want strong initial programming. We don't want another guinea pig year. We want confident teaching staff, administrative staff. We want to see faces from all schools so that as we are merging together, that there are beloved teachers from every campus present. We're ready to fold in with the parents from other schools and create a parent community that's ready to go. And I think ultimately it just boils down to, aside from all of the educational benefits that we're talking about, expanded programming that is going to prep our kids for higher education and a true high school experience, that we're just ready. We don't want a 2-year engagement. Like, let's get to the altar. We're ready to go.
Chief Joe parent in the first grade, and we had a mixed group of Beach and Chief Joe folks out in the hallway. I would really like to second Mr. Reiser. He was spot on with everything he was saying. So thank you. So I'm not going to repeat anything he said. And also, right here, we are exhausted at Chief Joe Ockley Green, and we've been in transition for a long time now. Even though I just started, I'm already feeling it. So our big ask in our group was that the resources needed, including staff time, administrative time, are given to make this happen so that it happens quickly. So we feel like we've been neglected. We feel like we haven't received the resources necessary to make a good transition the first time. It's essential that the board says this is a priority for us. We're gonna make it happen. We have really smart people. We have really smart leaders. We're gonna give them the time and space they need to make this middle school awesome, and it's gonna happen in 2016. Because we know you can do it. We know we can do it as a community, and we know the will is there. We just need to make sure that the space and money is there to make it happen.
I have a second and a kindergartner at Beach. I am on the foundation and slowly getting into the PTA. So my group mainly, there was a lot of opinions. I had teachers from Beach, I had parents. The biggest thing that I heard as the writer is who will sacrifice. Everyone is important. The teachers are scared because of the transition. Not all the teachers. Some of them are gung-ho. Some of them are scared because the transition isn't going to be easy, no matter what. And then some of them are like, let's do this. We can make it work. Some of them are scared about what will happen if it doesn't change with electives like the music and art getting shared and then outed, the library, the PE having to share so much time, the lunch being at 10:30 in the morning at Beach next year, just to account, like to have everybody fit into a schedule. So knowing all of those concerns, the biggest thing, I think, is that who will sacrifice? The second graders are not any less important than the seventh graders. The teachers are not any less important than the kids that will have to transition and maybe the teachers that follow them. I think we just have to go and barrel through, because whether you wait a year or 5 years or you do it right this second, I think it's not going to be easy. And that's what we're all here for as a community, is to be together and to fight through some of the things that are not going to be easy, but making sure that everybody is important and taken into account. And that's what I felt like, out of all the opinions of my group, that's the most important, is we are all important, but we're all together if we're together. So, yeah.
I'm the music teacher at Beach K-8, and this is my second year there. And I've seen some growth this year that I am afraid is going to be one of the sacrifices that happens next year. The music program is going to be put into the auditorium and expected to have an actual music class there in tandem with indoor recess, picture day, any kind of rehearsal or anything that may happen in the auditorium, which is going to be a conflict, not only between the teachers that work there and the other people that are trying to get into the auditorium, but the students that have to share that space. And I don't think it's right for them. And I don't think anybody in this room who's paying their fair share of the arts tax wants to see a music class taught in an auditorium. I think we deserve more for the kids because I know next year that it's going to be a huge sacrifice for a lot of these kids. For the teachers that have to deal with it, it's, I'm afraid, going to be kind of stifling. I'm curious about my future at Beach. I hate to say that out loud. I'm curious about other people's futures at Beach. I'm afraid of the amazing staff that I've met so far are going to start looking at other places. And I hate to see that in a neighborhood that I think needs such amazing teachers that we already have. So help us out. Get us this move. Get us into a place where we can actually have our classrooms and actually have these kids working in a classroom, not an auditorium and not art on a cart.
I'm a Peninsula parent, so I'm a Roosevelt cluster. Thank you for letting other people join your group here tonight. I do have to say, though, as somebody who pays the art tax, put it in perspective, you have a music class. So I hear you, auditorium's bad news, but you have a music class. We do not, okay? I'm sorry, I'm feeling a little passionate right now. So generally, our discussion was Chief Joe, Ockley Green educators concerned about the fast track of the transition. So I was with a group of teachers who were expressing concern about not having a leader, not having the time to build a strong education team. They're not allowed in the buildings over the summer. You guys aren't allowed in the buildings on the weekend. I work in a district. We lock our front doors for safety. Portland Public Schools doesn't. We let our educators in. I could go to work right now and let myself in and do my job. So the concern is that time will not be given to the teachers to create an excellent program. There's been a lot of transition already. There's been reconfigurations, and it's like a thrown-in situation. There's all the little details. It's gonna happen, it's go time, in August. They may not be ready because they're not given the tools, the leaders to have that time. So yeah, it would be great to have it be ready to go. But I think we need to slow down a little bit and think about the educators who are expected to do the impossible without the tools. Also, as I feel like we didn't take notes, so like I said, I'm a Peninsula parent, and I'm hoping somebody can answer this question for me. I am totally confused. Going to George, no. Going to Cesar Chavez, going to Ockley Green, we're not on this list anymore, so I don't really understand what's happening. I came today thinking that Ockley Green was where my daughter was most likely going to be going if we didn't have a K through 8, but I don't see our name on the list, so really confused. Lastly, we also have concern about Ockley Green becoming a middle school and not looking like Beaumont. Who's gonna say that we're gonna look like that? Look at all that. We're a North End school, when we're treated that way. So how can we be reassured it's not going to be like George's right now, with cafeteria assistant, library assistant, office aide, one Spanish. They don't have dance, they don't have music, they don't have band. How are we gonna be sure that it's gonna be a middle school with the electives we all are talking about?
I am speaking on behalf of a number of Beach families, a lot of them who I knew when we were a family from Beach. The general consensus is that everybody supports the concept of Ockley Green as a K-8. The biggest worry is transportation. The families in my group are, basically there was a wrench thrown in their wheel about 5-6 years ago when the pre-K program at Beach
was removed to make room for the stronger voices of the school. And the Head Start also. And this really made it difficult for people who at that point may had several schools they need to drop their kids off to. So transportation is a huge deal to my group, and I can totally see why. And we talked about also the implementation of the middle school to be a really good middle school in the short time span that we had. And we thought of tapping into the surrounding community. For example, Jefferson has a lot of excellent programs and teachers, and would it be possible during the transitional first year to perhaps borrow a teacher from Jeff here and there to come and teach a class? Like we wanted to hit the ground running, but the worry was that we would be shafted again like so many times before, and I completely sympathize with those fears. But I think based on what we all thought, we talked about compacted math, we talked about electives that go beyond the cafeteria assistant and whatnot, dance, music, all of those things that everybody wants, and everybody wants it, but the transportation has to be solved. And we all wanted some kind of guarantee from PPS that this will not happen. We were wondering, with the 6th, 7th, 8th grade taken away from Beach into Ockley Green, would that possibly free up time for the preschool to be reinstated? That would be a huge help, and it totally logistically makes sense. So yeah, the take from my group in a nutshell is overall positive. Oh, and another thing, we want very much for the teachers to be involved in the process, given the time, to have a good principal that will be allowed to really work on this program over the summer, pretty much freed up right away, given this post, given this job to start immediately to build up a good curriculum, a good team of teachers, be they existing teachers that will come and move with the students. That's totally a possibility. But the implementation is huge, transportation is huge, and other than that, it's overall very positive for this idea. And I think a huge thank you to you guys who put all this together. It makes all the sense in the world.
I have a 1st grader and a 5th grader going to Chief Joseph in Ockley Green. And I spoke with a group of 8 folks from Beach and Chief Joe campuses. And kind of split opinion. One opinion is we all agree this should be a middle school. Let's take the time to do it right and have a vision and have a plan and don't make it a lost year. And then kind of a competing vision is that the Chief Joseph Ockley Green community has been through this before. And we were told there was going to be strong leadership and a plan and a vision for a dual campus, one heart, and it still was kind of chaotic the first year. But we got through it, and it's kind of a good prototype for our middle school right now here at Ockley Green. So that being said, there's 2 concerns about waiting a year. The first concern is that the current low enrollment at K-8 schools, a lot of the students are already having a lost year. In fact, they've had 8 lost years. And on the other hand, if you're going to wait, please tell us how we can make that better for the students that have had all that lost time. How can we make it better for those students, more equitable? And then secondly, there is a lack of trust that exists for how well a year of planning would be spent. Or maybe we're just kicking the can down the road. And we might be starting at a similar spot in March 2017. So if you're going to wait and spend a year planning, please tell us, how are you going to operate and fund a strong visioning and planning process? And I'll just make one quick personal comment. and that is that in this room and in this community, there is so much strength and ingenuity and ability to come together and to work with the school district to make this a great school. But what I've seen in the past 3 years of this community is not a lot of great communication and not a lot of opening up and asking for the parents to come in and help make it great. So I think that's going to be a key indicator about whether this will work here, whether it's next year or the year after. Is this district willing to put in place administrators, and are we willing to get a PTA working all together to involve everybody?
And I obviously don't have any kids, but I think students are underrepresented here. I mean, how many of you guys are talking to the students about this, like just here? Yeah, there's like 5 hands. So, I mean, what do the students think? You gotta ask that. I mean, how did they feel about this? It's not just what the teachers want. I mean, the students are the ones going through all this. And I'm not gonna be going through this, so I mean, but like the 7th graders or 6th graders, 5th graders, they're gonna be going through this. They're going to have that experience of moving to a whole different school. So I think we should talk to them about that.
I have a 4th grader here at Ockley Green. The group that I am reporting out for a group that is comprised of Chief Joe, Ockley Green parents, and Vernon parents. I think the first thing I want to say actually has more to do with the Vernon and King families that are here tonight. And there was this expression in our group that, I hope I get this right, there's this sense of urgency for the 3 schools that would feed into an Ockley Green Middle School, but not necessarily for the 5th graders at Vernon and King. And it's just something that makes me feel uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. As a Jefferson cluster parent, if the urgency exists for our 5th graders, it exists for all of them. We had more questions than anything, and probably our primary questions were, we would like the district to tell us why it doesn't want to or cannot open Ockley as a middle school in 2016. So we are looking for the district to give us its reasons. We also would like the district to explicitly tell us if we wait a year, what specific extra planning will happen. And regardless of whether Ockley opens as a middle school in 2016 or 2017, will this reconfiguration / upheaval / disruption happen again anyway in another 6 to 8 years? We have some specifics, and I'm going to punt on several of those just in the name of time, but one of the specific questions we had was, will teachers be more able to do professional development with more time in the day if we have a middle school as opposed to what we have now? And will they get the right professional development for this cluster? Let's see.
Beach School. I have a daughter in 6th grade, a son in 2nd grade. Our group was kind of supporting the wall over here. We're a mixture of Beach and Ockley Green, I believe, mostly. And we fully supported making the change this fall for all the reasons that have been presented. We'd have some concerns and some suggestions. From Chief Joe, we'd like to have the ability of the 5th graders stay with their friends, stay as a cohort, and be able to continue at Ockley Green and not get displaced someplace that their friends will not be at. We feel that we're going to lose the momentum if we don't do it this fall. And personally, I think if we don't do it, PPS is going to be putting all of their energy, or the majority of it, into the west side where the money is. One suggestion that we had was based on a program that's working very well already at Ockley Green, is to continue the restorative justice program with the necessary resources to make it a viable program. So in other words, don't make it dependent on getting another grant. Let's have the funding up front for that. The feedback was pretty amazing how that has really brought the community together and resolved conflicts. We realize there's going to be some challenges, and so let's be thoughtful of that. Expect challenges to occur, and everyone be willing to deal with those and give us the resources so that we can deal with those. We're concerned about losing our Beach middle school teachers. We think they're great, so we're hoping, and we know that there's lots of rules for hiring, et cetera, but that our good teachers, as well as good teachers from other middle schools, will be able to follow our students. If there are openings, we would also implore you to start the hiring process now and not wait till sometime at the end of the summer where you're basically picking up people that haven't found a job. We want the best teachers, obviously, as everyone does. And finally, we feel that having a middle school, getting it in place now, will only strengthen the Jefferson cluster and Jefferson High School.
I'm a mother of two at Beach. I have a first grader and a third grader. My group was made up of Beach as well as Chief Joe Ockley Green parents. And what we noted here is that I think the consistency around this room is pretty much in favor of moving to the middle school model and having Ockley Green transition to a middle school. The question really is when we do that. Is that this year or is that next year? It's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So what difference does it make if we do it this year or if we do it next year? So that's what we wanted to focus on. As a Beach parent, two of us with kids in the tiniest classroom you can ever imagine, who apparently, they're gonna be in fourth grade next year, and apparently if it stays a K through 8, fourth graders will have lunch at 10:30 in the morning. I find it hard to believe that they can have a quality education all day when they couldn't eat at 10:30 and then have to be hungry the rest of the day. But with that being said, I think the consistency from the Beach parents is that we feel very, very cramped, and it's only going to get tremendously worse next year if it stays K through 8. It will be painful. But that being said, if we're going to make this change this year, it has to be simple, and it can't cause ripple effects throughout other areas of the district. And it can't mean that we push the overcrowding problem to Chief Joe, for example. We noted that if we made this change right away, then would we potentially move the overcrowding to Chief Joe? That was a concern on the Chief Joe side. Well, as Jim mentioned, one thing we could do is keep the fifth graders here. The fourth graders are here, keep them here. That helps mitigate the overcrowding issue at Chief Joe, as well as keeping that consistency for that fifth grade class that would stay here. So move all the middle schoolers here, keep the fifth graders here as well. You're able to resolve both issues at the same time.
My group was composed of Chief Joseph Ockley Green parents, specifically former Ockley Green Magnet parents. Our hopes is that we front load the needs of our kids, specifically the former Ockley Green Magnet kids who have undergone some pretty tremendous disruptions the last few years. And we echo all the concerns about strong programming, specifically strong leadership, and that the leadership is released right away to build their new school. And this consensus, this isn't just me talking, for those of you who know me, we believe that we, as a cluster, have failed a generation of children, and we have, as a school board, our school boards and the Office of Superintendent, this is our legacy. Our legacy is the last, in my family, it's just 10 years, but the legacy in this class is that we, and even as community members, that we have failed our kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th because we have not been able to make this happen. And we continue to do it. So, we have a great sense of urgency around this. I don't know if people at BESC have a great sense of urgency around this. We're not getting paid to do this work. There's a whole buildings full of people getting paid to do this work, so I'm not totally convinced they're going to be able to do it. That said, you have a really valuable asset in this room. You've had valuable assets that you've let slip through your fingers and go on to our high schools for the last 10 years. And we don't want this to be the legacy of our cluster to wait. But if you do end up waiting, we want our instructional minutes. We want those back. We want instructional minutes for our kids. We want you to tell the transportation department to work it out, figure out their mess. We want that for kids not transitioning next year. If we go through with the middle school, we want those for kids at Peninsula. We want those instructional minutes for all of our K-8s that are going to have to wait another year. And we want we want those things like compacted math. We want tiered interventions for our middle grade kids so that they're not starting out behind. We need a lot of things, and we need them for all of our kids.
I will say first, I'm a Jefferson cluster parent because we're all in this together. My son goes to Chief Joseph Ockley Green. He's in 2nd grade. He was in the first class of the newly merged school. And we have representatives from King, and we have Trillium Charter School here. All of our group wants a middle school next year and is interested in a middle school next year. There's a few points that one I want to reemphasize because we heard it over here, is that there are other kids, Leanne, there are other kids in the cluster who are also waiting for a middle school and waiting for that robust program. And an idea that came out of our group is that the kids at those schools should have the option of attending that 6th grade program next year here at Ockley Green while waiting for the potential of Tubman in a future year. I think that's an idea worth noting and considering because that urgency for all of those kids is here and right now, and we can't have more lost years. I think there was some big concern around making sure that when everyone's talked about the programming actually delivering that program. So it's one thing to call it a middle school. It really needs to be a fully programmed, resourced middle school, and those kids need to be given opportunities to be ready for high school and to create a strong Jefferson. What else did we? Oh, principal. We need a strong leader now. We need to put a principal in place now. This is the time to be bold and to do the right thing for this community, for Jefferson Cluster, and to listen to these wonderful teachers who are telling us that this is the right move to make. I know there's some other opinions among the teaching staff, but I'd like to hand the mic back to Chris Reiser, actually. But I think the biggest thing is let's get that leader in place and let's make this happen. You've got a room full of people who can actually help you make this happen.
I'm an Irvington parent. I have a 6th and a 4th grader. Our group was a diverse group of English speakers and Spanish speakers, students and parents. So we have a really broad set of opinions. Because we come from different places, a number of people had different opinions about what to do. Some mothers felt like that middle school would be a really good option for their kid. It would give them more options in terms of offering. Others were concerned because they felt like the model of K-8 works best for their families in terms of cohesion and being able to stay together, and they wanted that to be honored. Another mother also was concerned because her student is a 7th grader and the disruption. She's concerned about the quality of how things will go in a transition. So we couldn't come to agreement about that, but we did talk about what would happen if there is a transition, because that's really what needs to be talked about. And as a child of this neighborhood, proud alumni of Tubman, I went there when it first opened, I know what is not happening. And if you were around then, you know what is not happening. And so we are watching, all of us. And we can't continue on this path. We have to find ways forward, and that's complicated, like this group that I'm working with is complicated. But we must solve this problem. It's gone on for way more than 20 years. For my entire 47 years, it has been going on. So, if there is a transition, and when there is a transition, things that need to happen, better elective choices, including, this is from our students as well, dance, Spanish, Chinese, cooking, and sports. They would like to see broader social opportunities at the school, so making sure that a really good social structure is put in place to make sure that kids have a really fruitful, wonderful middle school experience. Keeping teacher groups together. Many of the people in our group have had good experiences because their teachers are cohesive. So will that be worked out? Will that be thought through? Will the union, are they here tonight, be engaged to make sure that that transition happens thoughtfully and really at the highest quality? Because again, this goes back decades. Care, family care, after-school care. Will there be appropriate care given and opportunities so that working families have the opportunity to have the kind of quality education? Because it's not just about what happens in the classroom, it happens after school, before school, to make the transitions correct. There were other questions about immersion. Will it continue? So there's just a lot of questions about what the plan is. It's just not clear to everybody because not all of us can track every single thing that's going on. And I feel like that's probably true for lots of us, including what I heard from Peninsula tonight, like, where are we? So how do we, and that speaks to communication through the cluster and through our schools. Another parent brought up a really excellent point, which was counseling. In her home country, counselors are far more directive around academic choices and helping students identify their strengths and their weaknesses, helping them guide choices so that they get the most out of their education. So they also need perhaps more counseling and more counselors available to take best advantage of whatever is going to be here. And another last thing was, can we improve teacher and student rapport? Is there a way to ensure high quality teaching? And that's not just specific, but that was just something that came up. So it's a lot of things. I just want to say again that I appreciate our Spanish translation, which helped us come together as a diverse group of people. And what else? I just appreciate everyone coming together tonight to talk, because it's not what's happening enough for us to really actually understand what we could do together.
I have a 4th and a 6th grader here at Chief Joseph Ockley Green. I'm speaking for myself, actually. My group already spoke, but I just kind of want to say my piece here anyway. But 3 years ago, Chief Joseph Ockley Green was voted to merge without this group together, cohesive, and pushing for it. It was just, the community was told this is going to happen, and the district wanted to do it, and the district made it happen, and the community still came together, and it worked. And Chief Joseph Ockley Green has a wonderful middle school program. I am super happy with the middle school program we have here. That is not the case for students over at Woodlawn, students over at Beach, and even schools that are not included in this plan. We need to act bold. There's lots of board members in here. Decouple it. Stand up right now and say, let's just make this happen. The whole reason DBRAC was put together was because of what happened back in 2013. So pull it aside and make it happen. If you want to do it, you can do it. And the community's here to support you in any way you ask for that support. So I hope that'll happen. And any K-8 that stays for next year needs to have the instructional minutes for all middle schoolers to have the same.
I was a Beach parent for almost 10 years until about a month ago. And our group was composed of most non-English speakers, Spanish speakers, and I served as a Spanish translator, English-Spanish translator. So I'm not going to be, I don't want to reemphasize a lot of what has been said, but a lot of the parents in our group said they agree with the changes, but they're very afraid of the lack of support that up to now has not been promised as far as transportation. A lot of the parents in our group have kids in pre-K, Head Start programs, regular 4th, 6th, and 5th grades, and then some they're going to be in the middle school. And so they're really worried about having to split various different directions to take the kids to almost simultaneous times. And so what they were really asking for was support for transportation, number one. Number two, also, if Beach was to become just a through 5, maybe once the middle school has parted out of the building, maybe we can reinstate Head Start or pre-K program at Beach. Maybe there's more room given there. The other thing that they also, a lot of the parents in our group have stated is for these to happen, and they do understand that there is a great need for the change, for the support that middle school kids need, but they really need to support the teachers. They need the teachers to be along the change, to be able to walk with the students, to be able to walk with the parents. And lastly, I want to just say a little bit of a personal experience I had with my daughter, Brisa. Come here. We had to move out of Beach for reasons that I can't really speak of right now, but Beach, like I said, we've been at Beach for 10 years. My son now, he's a freshman at Jefferson High. Go, Jeff. And I can tell you that now that my daughter is at Beaumont Middle School, I've seen her grow more in the last month than I saw her in the last 3-4 years. It's just a different atmosphere. Now I can tell that she's a teenager and not a grade schooler anymore. And that's just in 1 year. So to me, that's my personal experience. That's my 2 cents to the story is the difference in atmospheres makes a difference in the kids.
Okay, in our group, we had a parent from Da Vinci. I'm also from King and Beach, and then we had a community member and a staff member. And so we talked about our vision and hope for the middle school would be more quality programs like Beaumont has, and the parent also spoke about some of the programs that they had at Da Vinci, the art, the dance, theater, and those things that we would like to have all the kids to have access to, and music, technology, band, being prepared to go into a high school and be able to participate in choir and band, things that you don't get at a middle school level. We would like to see stable funding and staffing, and having stability for the students. And I guess I should say staff too, because staff gets transferred everywhere too. And then our concerns with kids bouncing from school to school. There's been a lot of transition since, 2012, basically, with our group of kids, and probably before that. The implementation planning must be intentional, and community building needs to happen for the families and for the staff. Someone said that Chief Joe may still experience some overcrowding even with the changes, so that was a concern. And we felt that the middle schoolers needed to experience a typical bell schedule to get ready for high school transitioning from class to class. So on a total side note, I'm glad to see that we have a lot of our Latino brothers and sisters here. I would have liked to see a lot more black families here, because a lot of us are not getting information at some of our selective schools. So I do want to put that out there, because there are board members. Carol Smith, you're here, and I like to call this out. Some of us are being in oppressive situations and conditions in our buildings where we're not getting access to the same information as other people in other school buildings. I subscribe to other school email listservs, and they get a lot more information about stuff that may be even happening in our own neighborhood that we don't get. That's not right. We didn't get the handbooks about the DBRAC recommendations. I went to Beach and had to bring it over to King to show, why aren't we getting these handouts? Why aren't we finding about conferences that are coming up? And I'm sharing from one school to the other. I shouldn't have to do that as a parent. Everything should be coming out of your communication department, Don Isaacs, wherever you are. You're not hitting every school, and if you are, they're not sharing with the families. You need to fix that. And everything cannot be done electronically on the internet when we still have some parents that are dependent on paper.
Okay, I just want to say a huge thank you for everything that got shared here tonight. I feel like there were really rich conversations that happened in the room, and you gave us a huge amount of what is really valuable as we're trying to figure out what's the next step in this process. I also just want to say there was a universal call for a middle school, which was not true when we did this process in the Jefferson enrollment balancing back in 2013, where when we entered that process, I actually thought the narrative I was hearing was a readiness to go back to a middle school, and we actually heard a pretty even split of people who are pretty attached to their K-8s and were not really ready to go back to a middle school. And we didn't have a critical, we couldn't come to something that felt like a universal cry for middle school. We had high value on the connectivity of the K-8s and a cry for the electives and the diverse offerings you get in a middle school, and not a critical mass to be able to do a healthy middle school and keep K-8s alive. So we were really just totally in okay, we don't have someplace to go with this, and also with no resource, so to make anything happen with. So the fact that and this cluster was what sent us into looking at this district-wide, which, as you know, is hugely complex. But we're faced with a really different challenge right now in that we are now a growing district rather than a declining district. So we're just in a very different challenge of how do we grow to accommodate an increase in the number of students and be flexible enough that we're able to accommodate but grow with some integrity and ability to offer quality programs across the entire district. So we're in a really different situation right now. The fact that this community is coming together representing this many different schools in the cluster and everybody is saying this is what we want is like enormous. So like I just want to say thank you so much for the vision you have just shared with each other and with us about what you want here and what you can see being possible at Ockley Green. Make it happen next year. Well, and I hear that cry for urgency, and it was what we needed to hear from people, and there's huge complexity. We will take it back and take that to heart. I'm going to be meeting with board members one-on-one tomorrow, so I'll get to hear where their heads are. I'll get to hear from the implementation team. I want to hear from teachers, so a little bit more too, in terms of what that means to actually be able to do it. And then the leadership question is a really big question. I know people think we can pop out and grab somebody. Go. I know they do. So just to say, well, I got what I needed tonight from all of you, so I just want to just say great appreciation for you all being here. And what I will be doing, I'm going to say this one more time, I'm going to meet with board members tomorrow, doing my one-on-one. I'm working with my implementation team. I will then call DBRAC back together, so the DBRAC committee, and I will present, here's my best shot at the next iteration of a plan. They'll be the first group of people that I bring that back to so that they have the opportunity to give me feedback. I will then put that out and go listen to people, do an east side listening session, a west side listening session, and then tinker again before I give it to the board. It's then in the board's court. So just to say there's a little bit more process here, so stay tuned, but I'm going to work to really incorporate the things that I've heard in the listening sessions I've had as I come up with my next best shot at this. And I'm going to just do, yes, clarifying question only though. So I'm shooting, it's the week of March 29th to go to the board for mine. We have spring break in here, so like I'm actually in budget or boundary every night from here on both sides of spring break and then trying to get it to the board. So we've kind of got big mega processes. Then it's in the board's court, and it depends on what kind of change the board wants to make. So it's in their court. Sorry. Yes.
What are we supposed to do in the interim of time while you guys are figuring all this out? Because my daughter is entering 6th grade in the fall right now at King School, and we don't know what the hell we're going to do. We have other parents, like you guys are dismantling us. There's other parents that are eligible to transfer to other schools. There's other parents that like to go to Da Vinci or what have you. So in the meantime, the 6th grade option is just getting smaller and smaller as far as the bodies that will be going on to 6th grade. So what are we supposed to do? You're not giving what are you going to do? The principals, the teachers don't have time to even plan.
So
give us an answer for fall.
Here's what I'll tell you. At the moment, you're doing what you're doing. So you're in the situations that you're in. Numbers of things, like my budget proposal for staffing for schools as they are right now comes out on March 8th. We'll start staffing our schools for next year on March 9th. So like as of right now, you are exactly how you are. So I mean, that's really the best I can give you at this point, because, yeah, go ahead. We're looking at these are all coming in as part of budget. Yeah, so some of those, doing the set aside in order to make sure everybody has compacted math, part of the budget, looking at the 15-minute differential, part of the budget. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to call this our evening tonight. So I'm going to say thank you guys and let you guys go. But stay tuned. Yes, budget, March 8th. Getting something to the board on my boundary thing will be the week of March 29th. Thanks you guys so much.